The Sultan and the Wazir. A Wazir had served his master for some 30 years and was known and admired for his loyalty, truthfulness, and devotion to God. His honesty, however, had made him many enemies in the court, who spread stories of his duplicity and perfidy. They worked on the Sultan day in and day out until he too came to distrust the innocent Wazir, and finally ordered the man who had served him so well to be put to death. In this realm, those condemned to death were tied up and thrown into the pen where the Sultan kept his fiercest hunting dogs. The dogs would promptly tear the victim to pieces. Before being thrown to the dogs, the Wazir asked for one last request. "I would like 10 days' respite," he said, "so that I can pay my debts, collect any money due to me, return items that people have put in my care, and share out my goods among the members of my family and my children and appoint a guardian for them." After receiving a guarantee that the Wazir would not try to escape, the Sultan granted this request. The Wazir hurried home, collected 100 gold pieces, then paid a visit to the huntsman who looked after the Sultan's dogs. He offered this man the 100 gold pieces and said, "Let me look after the dogs for 10 days." The huntsman agreed, and for the next 10 days the Wazir cared for the beasts with great attention, grooming them well and feeding them handsomely. By the end of the 10 days they were eating out of his hand. On the 11th day the Wazir was called before the Sultan. The charges were repeated, and the Sultan watched as the Wazir was tied up and thrown to the dogs. Yet when the beasts saw him, they ran up to him with wagging tails. They nibbled affectionately at his shoulders and began playing with him. The Sultan and the other witnesses were amazed. The Sultan asked the Wazir why the dogs had spared his life. The Vizier replied, "I have looked after these dogs for 10 days. The Sultan has seen the results for himself. I have looked after you for 30 years, and what is the result? I am condemned to death on the strength of accusations brought by my enemies." The Sultan blushed with shame. He not only pardoned the Wazir, but gave him a fine set of clothes and handed over to him the men who had slandered his reputation. The noble Wazir set them free and continued to treat them with kindness. So moral: win through your actions, not with arguments.